Good day, everyone. Today we'll explore one of the most dominant ideologies shaping our contemporary world, which is market globalism. This concept helps us understand why the global economy looks the way it does today, and how ideas about free market and trade have become almost synonymous with globalization itself. When we talk about globalization, we refer to the broad social processes that create increasing global interdependence, movements of goods, people, ideas, and capital across borders. But market globalism is not the same thing. It's an ideology, a belief system that justifies and promotes globalization through the lens of neoliberalism. It is the idea that free markets, deregulation, and minimal government intervention are the best paths to human progress and prosperity. In other words, market globalism gives globalization its meaning, direction, and purpose. Market globalism tells us that if markets are open, liberalized, and connected across the globe, everyone will benefit that growth and wealth will trickle down to all the sectors of society. However, as we will see later, this promise has not been equally fulfilled. Many of the benefits are concentrated among global elites, multinational corporations, and developed economies. According to Manfred Stiger, there are five core claims of market globalism. Number one is globalization is about liberalizing and integrating markets. Number two is globalization is inevitable and irreversible. Number three, nobody is in charge of globalization. It's an organic process. Number four, globalization benefits everyone. And number five, globalization spreads democracy and freedom. These are the claims to create a powerful narrative that globalization is natural, unstoppable, and universally good. But as we will see later, many scholars and activists question this story. After the Second World War, the Bretton Woods Agreement or the Bretton Woods Conference established key financial institutions. This is the World Bank and the IMF. The purpose of this institution is to stabilize and rebuild the global economy. Although their original purpose was reconstruction, they gradually became instruments for promoting liberalized trade and open markets. In the 1980s, we saw the rise of leaders like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher who promote neoliberalism, emphasizing privatization, deregulation, and reduced government spending. This was the ideological turning point that globalized market liberalization after the Cold War. Market globalism became the dominant worldview, presented as the only viable model for progress, because they believed that by promoting liberalization as an economic policy, it will create wealth and promote prosperity for the country. Although some of the critics emphasize that there's also a cons in this trend towards liberalization. So please take note of the word liberalization. This is one of the important key terms that we need to remember that describes so much the Bretton Woods Agreement. Kasi itong Bretton Woods Agreement na ito, na-establish ito pagkatapos ng ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig. Kasi ang purpose nito is to reconstruct and to help the nations, the allies of the US and the other countries to rebuild their economy and their infrastructure by providing institutions that will help with the financing in terms of aid and loan, and also regulating the global currency. So thus the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank was established. But later on, as years go by, neo not neo but liberalism took over, and these institutions became the promoters of this kind of ideology. So these institutions play a central role in maintaining and spreading market globalism, and the IMF ensures the global financial stability and often imposes austerity measures on borrowing countries. So the World Bank provides loans for development projects but often requires countries to adapt to market-friendly reforms. So ang nangyari nito nang ma-establish ang World Bank, ang purpose nito ay magpautang. Subalit subalit itong World Bank na ito ay ginamit niyang batayan ang liberalism as a policy to impose as a condition to those countries who are borrowing money from the World Bank. Kasi ito naman talaga ang tinatawag natin na pag ikaw ay humiram sa bangko, ang bangko ay nagkakaroon ng karapatan na mag-impose ng mga conditions in order to help you repay the money. So, aside from this, we also have the WTO, or the World Trade Organization, which replaced the GATT. Kasi yung after the Bretton Woods Agreement, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, or GATT, was established, and later on it was superseded by the World Trade Organization. Itong World Trade Organization is responsible for creating the rules and the systems that will promote uh, liberalization and globalization. So kumbaga ito ay naging isang bandwagon. So in order for you to succeed in the world of trade, you must be a member of the WTO. Kumbaga ito ay naging bandwagon, at ang WTO ay naging Peter Piper, na kung saan whether you like it or not, you have to follow and to be included. So together, they enforce the logic of the global economy, or the global market economy. So pag sinabi natin global market economy, it refers to the philosophy of the law of supply and demand. So among its strongest supporters are multinational corporations, the global giants like Amazon, Coca-Cola, and Walmart. They thrive on open borders, cheap labor, and global supply chains. For them, globalization means efficiency and profit. However, for smaller business and workers in developing economies, it often means competition and precarity. So in other words, pag sinabi natin na itong liberalization at saka globalization ng economy, beneficial ito lalong-lalo na sa mga multinational corporations, yung mga malalaking kumpanya. Kasi because of this, they are able to take advantage of the open borders at yung mababang pasahod sa mga manggagawa, at yung pagkakaroon ng access doon sa mga supply chains. So, kumbaga, sa mga malalaking kumpanya o kaya mga multinational corporations, nagiging advantageous ito. Pero doon sa mga maliliit na negosyo, mga maliliit na business na walang ganitong clout sa business world, nagkikreate ito sa kanila ng suliranin at problema. Now, I would like to identify the consequences of market globalism. So let's assume na itong market globalism ay laganap na, and let us try to identify the consequences. So the first of this is increased inequality. The benefits of globalization are not evenly distributed. And second is cultural homogenization. Global brands and Western media dominate threatening local identities. For example, halimbawa sa pop music, for example. So, imbes na ma-appreciate ng mga tao yung kanilang local music, para nagkakaroon ng uh, pag-adapt ng isang sistema ng music. At example ulit sa mga movies, for example, because of the dominance of Hollywood, most people develop a taste for this kind of movies, and sometimes yung kanilang mga local movies ay namamatay. So third is environmental degradation. The pursuit of endless growth has contributed to climate change and pollution. And lastly, there is a demographic, no, not demographic, but democratic deficit. So power now is concentrated in corporations and international bodies, and therefore weakening national sovereignty. So nagiging mas powerful na ngayon ang mga multinational corporations. Nakakapag-dictate na sila ng kanilang terms vis-a-vis the government, at nawawalan minsan, humihina ang kakayahan ng mga gobyerno na mag-dictate ng terms sa mga bagay na usaping market relations. So habang lumalawak ang market globalism na tinatawag natin, nag-i-expand siya, may mga kumukontra din dito sa ganitong trend, and this give rise to counter ideologies. Halimbawa, isa sa mga counter ideologies yung tinatawag na justice globalism. So ang justice globalism advocate fairness, environmental protections, and labor rights. Religious globalism also promote moral and spiritual alternatives. Isa ito. So aside from justice globalism, meron ding tinatawag na religious globalism. The purpose of this is to promote moral or spiritual alternatives to the secular globalization. Then, there's also the national populism, yung pagiging makabansa. May mga may mga countries ngayon na kumukontra sila sa market globalism, at ang promote nila ay yung national populism. Like for example sa Venezuela, Colombia, at iba pang bansa sa South America. And also in Europe, we saw the example of the Brexit, na kung saan ay nag-decide ang Great Britain na kumalas sa European Union. Or we also saw the development of the Trump era, or the kumbaga na-popularize ni President Donald Trump ng United States yung protectionism, lalo na yung kanyang programa na America First, emphasizing the interest of America vis-a-vis the world. So it emphasizes nationalism and economic sovereignty. So this reaction reflect discontent with how globalization is managed and who benefits from it. So sa pag-unawa natin dito sa topic natin na market globalism, isa sa historical epochs nito ay yung tinatawag natin na post-Cold War period, particularly focused on the 1990s. So in order to understand your conceptualization of market globalism, you will examine one of the following case studies. So this will be my assignment for you to do. So in the next slide, I'm going to explain to you the things that you need to do in order to comply with this practicum. So the World Trade Organization's battle in Seattle in 1999, where activists protested the WTO's neoliberal policy. The 2008 financial crisis triggered by deregulation and speculative finance and modern tech giants like Amazon, which reshape economies and labor. These examples show both the reach and the risk of market globalism. So ito dalawa to ha, yung the WTO's battle in Seattle in 1999 and the 2008 financial crisis. So these examples show to us that the breadth and the reach and the risk of market globalism. So with the collapse of the Soviet Union, market globalism was framed as the only viable path forward for all nations, and key global elites, including politicians and CEOs, actively promoted this ideology. So, to give our conclusion, market globalism is not a neutral phenomenon. It is an ideology that frames globalization as universally beneficial, but it advances specific economic interests. So it has generated immense wealth and connectivity, but also inequality, cultural loss, and environmental strain. Today, as countries reassess globalization, we might be witnessing a shift towards fragmented globalization where regions align based on shared values rather than a single global market logic. So, dito makikita natin na ang market globalism ay isang ideology, hindi ito neutral. Kaya nga may dalawang outcome siya. Ang promise niya ay na siya ay magdudulot ng prosperity, wealth among the nations, and it will advance the quality of human life. Pero in reality, nakikita natin na ito ay nagkakaroon ng mga adverse effect din. So, kumbaga yung opposite ng wealth and progress, nagkakaroon din ng mga um, problema, like for example inequality. So kumbaga pag sinabing inequality, may mayaman, may mahirap, may matagumpay, may hindi, may nagte-take advantage at may nawawala ng opportunity. Then there's also the cultural loss. Ibig sabihin, yung mga kultura, lalo na yung mga unique na mga culture ng mga tao ay nawawala kasi nga because of homogenization. Kasi nga with the spread of the media, the globalization of contact, the interconnectivity, may mga kulturang dominant like for example Hollywood, like for example pop music, etc. Uh, Nagdudulot ito ng devastation at saka decline sa mga cultural identities na natitreten. So, aside from that, it also create an environmental strain. Kasi itong tinatawag natin na market globalism, nagpo-promote din siya ng consumption. So, consume and consume, produce and produce, consume and consume because it promises that production will provide wealth for the nations, for the country. But in the end, it also has its serious adverse effect, which is environmental strain. So ngayon, yung mga bansa ngayon, ina-assess na nila yung epekto ng globalization. So, sabi nga dito, we might witness a shift towards fragmented globalization. So, ang ibig sabihin ng fragmented globalization, may mga lugar sa mundo, mga regions, for example, that are getting well along globalization, but there are also countries that may not be tawag dito, is not on board with globalization. So dito papasok yung next topic natin later, yung tinatawag natin na the global north and the global south, wherein we will examine global inequality. So ito ang mga tatandaan natin, just as a reminder, itong IMF, tandaan natin kung ano ito ha. IMF, International Monetary Fund, which promotes global monetary cooperation and financial stability. So very important ang monetary, yan, to regulate this because ito ang instrument, this is the main instrument for trade. Then you also have the World Bank, which provide loans and grants for capital projects to developing countries. Then the World Trade Organization. So ang World Trade Organization, it replaces the the GATT, or the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, to create and enforce the rules for international trade. Kasi nga, pag nag-globalize na yung trade, kailangan may malakas din na na regulations in order to regulate the activities of the countries, and in order to promote the objectives of global trade, but at the same time also to prevent abuses and inequality. Ito yung mga supporters ng market globalism. Yung mga multinational corporations, lalong-lalo na yung mga malalaking kumpanya like Amazon, Coca-Cola, Walmart, and which use the global chain to increase profit and market share. So napakalawak ng kanilang saklaw sa buong mundo, at nado-dominate nila yung supply chain, which is very important in the flow of production and of business in general. Then, ito naman yung mga criticisms and consequences. So, the main question, what are the negative outcome of the market globalism? Ito, increase inequality, cultural homogenization, environmental degradation, and the democratic deficit. Then, ito naman yung backlash sa alternative to market globalism. Justice globalism, religious globalism, national populism, and anti-globalism. So ito yung mga So ito yung assignment ko sa inyo, yung case study. So siguro kailangan ninyo ito, screenshot ninyo mga examples. Number 1, the WTO's battle in 1999. Then example number 2, the 2008 financial crisis. And third is the modern tech giants. So ito, i-search niyo siya, magkaroon kayo ng internet search or library search, alamin niyo kung ano ang itong number 1, number 2, number 3 na examples. At siguro you can read some of the literature, kung ano ang background ng mga issue na to, and then later on gagampanan ninyo ang inyong assignment, which will be filled up in the Google form, na which I will be providing for you, na doon ninyo isusulat yung sagot ninyo sa case study nito. Pero pipili lang kayo ng isa dito. So hindi niyo naman gagawin yung itong tatlong ito, pipili lang kayo ng isa. So in conclusion again, market globalism is a powerful neoliberal ideology. It is not a neutral outcome of history. So it promotes the integration of markets under the pretense of universal benefit. And third, its outcome include increased inequality, cultural challenges, and environmental concerns. And its dominance, has sparked significant counter movements. So the future outlook is that fragmented globalization with countries aligning in blocks or shared values. So thank you very much for listening to this short lecture. This will be embedded in a Google form. You will comply with the case study in the Google form, and also I am also providing you with reading materials. So, pero yung reading materials medyo mahaba 'yon kasi yung topic na 'yon ay about market globalism. So, pero I'm giving it to you for the sake na perhaps if you have time, you can browse the article and also gain some understanding of the concepts that I have presented in this lecture.